Is your next Disney World trip going to be way less stressful and even less crowded than before? Today we're talking about what we're seeing happen in the parks currently that could indicate less hustle and bustle for your Orlando vacation in the future. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. As wild as it may seem, the summer Disney World crowds aren't drowning us right now. While no Disney day in the summer is downright dead, wait times for rides feel a little more reasonable and more restaurant availability is popping up for last-minute reservations, and most importantly, you can walk more than 3 steps without bumping into someone. It's a small victory, but a good one. So, are we losing it here? Are the parks really less busy, or are we just hoping that's the case and letting our imaginations get the best of us? While we may not have a crystal ball that lets us look at the future of park attendance trends, we do visit the parks often enough to spot some major discrepancies between this summer and the last. So based on previous crowd patterns, the general attitude of Disney fans both in the news and on social media, and attendance data coming straight from the Disney company itself, we can tell you firsthand that Disney World is not as shoulder-to-shoulder packed as it once was. Let's discuss some key reasons as to why Disney World might be seeing fewer guests right now. First up, Park Pass availability is in the green. Remember the days post-COVID closures when Disney World's park capacity was ever so slowly allowing more and more guests back into their parks? The masking mandates were being lifted and everyone was absolutely losing their minds because they'd been cooped up in their houses for months. Yeah, I still can't believe we lived through that time either. In order to keep tabs on park capacity during this time when everyone was desperate to find some sort of semblance of normality, even when the park still didn't feel normal, Disney came up with a Park Pass reservation system, which is basically your way of saving your spot in the parks on the days you want to visit, even after you've purchased your theme park tickets. We've had this system in place ever since it was originally released, but it's no longer the nuisance that it used to be. Over the past few months, besides a few major holidays, Disney's Park Pass reservation availability has been wide open at all 4 theme parks. And yet, once upon a time, park days were booking up solid months in advance, especially for parks like Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. At the beginning of the year, we released a video that talked about why crowds could start dwindling down during 2023. And a big section of that video focused on how revenge travel could finally start letting up this year, which probably has finally come to fruition. Revenge traveling was what several vacation destinations were seeing all across the globe as people finally got to get out of the house and go do things again. This went for Disney World too, which had guests coming in droves to the park since many folks were forced to cancel and postpone previous trips in the wake of COVID. But nowadays, as people settle into a state of normality once more, the urgency to experience Disney World isn't as urgent anymore. Not to mention, those who did hit up the parks during the revenge traveling season might have gotten a solid dose of Disney that'll keep them satisfied for a good long while. Also a lot of crowds. And that leaves those folks to plan vacations to other destinations, or maybe do their every 2 years or every 3 years Disney trip. On top of Park Pass availability being way more open nowadays, Disney has also recently announced that these Park Pass reservations will soon be going away for good. Plot twist. Starting January 9th, 2024, Park Pass reservations will not be needed for those who have date-based park tickets. On a similar note, Disney has also announced that the Disney Dining Plan, aka a prepaid dining package for your trip, will return on the exact same day as the Park Pass departure. And to top it all off, next year will also be the year that Disney promises that the Genie Plus system will become less confusing to use. So in short, these lighter crowds that we're seeing now could also be folks just waiting for 2024 to roll around, when planning a Disney World trip will be much easier for them to navigate. Now, let's talk discounts. It is wild to think that some of Disney World's busiest seasons are now offering up the most discounts, but that is not an accident. Just look at the current special offers, deals, and discounts listed on the Disney World website, and you'll see what I mean. Right now, we're seeing deals for pretty much everyone, including Florida residents, Disney Visa card members, annual pass holders, regular theme park guests. A few of those promos feature 4-day 4-park tickets for $99 per day, saving up to 25% on Disney World hotel rooms this summer, 30 to 35% off your hotel stay during the summer for a bunch of folks, Disney Plus subscribers, annual pass holders, military, and Visa card holders. But hotel discounts have already been listed for the holiday season too, up to 40% off hotels. And not too terribly long ago, we learned about Disney's returning bounce back offers too. Before the Disney parks shut down in 2020, Disney was known to offer bounce back deals, which are basically limited time savings opportunities only available for you if you were just on a Disney World vacation. Basically incentivizes you to come back even sooner than you may have otherwise. And this is back for the first time in a long time for 2024 vacations. So depending on the resort you choose, discounts range between 25% and 35% off your next stay. On the one hand, when we see heavy-handed discounts like this, we usually assume that Disney wants more people in the parks and resorts, so they start lowering the price to entice more folks to come to town. Next indicator of lower demand for Disney parks. Annual passes are still available. Now, sometimes the old scare tactic of get them before they're gone just doesn't work on your consumers anymore, and that goes for Disney's products too. In April 2023, Disney fully resumed annual pass sales after a rather spotty availability since the pandemic closure of 2020. The passes were brought back with a word of warning from Disney itself. The same day the passes went back on sale, Disney added a statement to its website informing customers that annual passes could sell out at any time. And here we are, months later, and all annual passes are still available for purchase. This is significant for a couple of key reasons. First off, the fact that all 4 types of annual passes are still available is extremely telling when it comes to AP demand. Back in 2021, when Disney tried to sell all 4 of their AP tiers again, they had to pause those sales only a few months later, leaving only the cheapest Pixie Dust pass with the least amount of park pass reservations and most blockout dates as an option strictly for locals. There were a couple of reasons Disney had to pause the other 3 AP tiers, including the highest IncrediPass tier, the only AP that non-local guests can purchase. But one of the biggest reasons was simply to assist with limited park capacity. Fast forward to present day, we could write off the current AP availability that we're seeing now as simply Disney's park capacity returning to normal, after literal years of it not being normal, but we gotta look at Disney's online statement again, still warning guests that the APs could become unavailable at any time. It seems like many people expected annual passes to sell out almost immediately because they were so hard to get for such a long time. So the fact that passes have not sold out could indicate that demand isn't as strong, or it could just indicate that Disney has changed their policy on annual passes. But if demand isn't as strong, where did it go? Well, there's a possible complex answer here as well as an easy one. The complex answer is that locals have been burned by the AP system one too many times and they just don't want to play Disney's game of chess anymore. Back in October of 2022, a lawsuit was filed by some Disney World annual pass holders against the Disney parks. Essentially, the plaintiffs argued that Disney's highest tier passes, the IncrediPasses, which were supposed to have no blockout dates, were still being blocked out by Disney thanks to the park pass reservation system. By telling these premium pass holders that certain days were already booked up solid by other guests, the plaintiffs noted that Disney was still able to sell more tickets on the exact same days to single-day guests instead, since single-day ticket holders were getting a different calendar that showed more park availability. By opening up availability for more single-day guests, the plaintiffs noted that this would guarantee a higher profit for Disney that day, since annual pass holders normally don't end up spending extra money on things like Genie Plus, park hoppers, hotel rooms, etc. While Disney has claimed these allegations should be dismissed, park pass reservation adjustments were still made for annual pass holders earlier this year. Nowadays, annual pass holders no longer need a reservation if they plan on visiting the parks after 2 p.m., unless they're planning on visiting Magic Kingdom on the weekend. But come January 2024, while other people don't need park pass reservations anymore, annual pass holders do. So the fact that people aren't exactly jumping at the chance to buy up annual passes again could relate to how APs have been labeled as a more unfavorable crowd by Disney in previous years. But the easier answer here could also be that Disney posted that APs could sell out at any time to create a sense of urgency for guests to buy now instead of later, or to cover themselves since they've got those lawsuits going on right now. All in all, annual passes are still live on site. You can still purchase them right now, and they don't look like they're going away just yet. So when you're roaming around the parks this summer, there is a good possibility you might run into fewer pass holders than you might have come across in previous years. So some virtual queues aren't as stressful as they should be this time of year. We've usually had a love-hate relationship with the virtual queue system for Disney's newest rides. We love them because they allow you to get into a digital line via the My Disney Experience app and not have to stand hours in a standby line to check out the new experiences. But we also hate them because these virtual queues have always booked up fast, like real fast, too fast, really, leaving many without a boarding group number so they wouldn't be able to experience the latest ride at all during their visit, and that's not cool. When Tron Light Cycle Run finally opened in Magic Kingdom, we saw the same thing happening at first. In fact, we saw it happen double, since the virtual queue for the other new Disney coaster, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind in Epcot, didn't go away after Tron opened, meaning you not only had to worry about one virtual queue, but two. And yet, as of late, Tron's virtual queue hasn't been all that stressful to grab a boarding group number for. Recently, virtual queue availability for Tron has remained open even hours after that 7 a.m. drop, which is unheard of in a virtual queue. Thinking back to the grand opening of Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, guests had to work hard to secure a virtual queue spot in line, and meanwhile, Tron seems to be relatively easy to ride. This doesn't mean that Tron isn't fun, it is fun, but the demand just doesn't seem to be as prevalent. But think about it, the Tron IP doesn't really have as strong a pull as other Disney World rides have had in the past. While Cosmic Rewind lets you join Star-Lord and the gang on an epic MCU space mission, and Rise of the Resistance drops you right into the Star Wars universe, Tron, as neat as it may be, doesn't have quite the fan base that these other IP-based rides have gathered over the years. Recently, virtual queue availability for Tron has at times remained open hours after that 7 a.m. drop. There's also not as much to the Tron ride if you think about it, where Rise of the Resistance gave us state-of-the-art dark ride technology and Cosmic Rewind gave us backwards launches, a super long coaster, and an unbelievable experience. Tron's layout is pretty brief. It's like a minute long and basic, aside from the light cycle seats. Not to mention, Tron's not only a super short ride, but its virtual queue can also get super long. Well, in theory, you should be able to walk onto the ride once your boarding group number has been called. There have been several times that our DFB reporters have had their numbers called only to still find themselves waiting in a half-hour long or more line just to get through to the ride queue. And then, once you get to the actual queue, it can be another 30 minutes before you get to board one of these light cycles. So basically, you pick up a virtual queue and you still get to experience an hour-long wait. This isn't always the case, but it has been happening more and more frequently, so there's a good possibility we could see the regular standby queue open up for Tron earlier than expected. Maybe. And there's always the possibility that guests are waiting to experience this new coaster during the Magic Kingdom holiday after-hours parties instead, like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween and or Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, both of which will have virtual queues for the coaster. Are you one of those folks who's planning on riding Tron during either of those parties? Then here's what you need to know. 1, you can join the virtual queue starting at 6 p.m. on the night you're attending the party. 2, you can only request to enter the virtual queue once per event. 3, your event tickets must be linked to your My Disney Experience account in order to join the queue. And 4, you do not have to be in Magic Kingdom in order to join the virtual queue as long as your tickets are linked in your account. So, what does Disney have to say about all this? I've given you a few different reasons as to why the parks might be seeing this downward trajectory in guests currently, but let's hear it straight from the horse's mouth, or the mouse's mouth. In a recent earnings call, Disney CFO Christine McCarthy discussed theme park growth and park attendance. In reference to the Disney parks revenue, she said per cap growth was more moderate this quarter as we are comparing against the first full quarter of offering Genie Plus and Lightning Lane at both parks in the prior year. Translation, things are slowing down. McCarthy also said, please keep in mind that in the back half of this fiscal year, there will be an unfavorable comparison against the prior year's incredibly successful 50th anniversary celebration at Walt Disney World. Adding, we typically see some moderation in demand as we lap these types of events, and third quarter to date performance has been in line with those historical trends. In short, Disney confirmed that demand in the parks is slowing down compared to the beginning of the 50th anniversary and will continue to slow down. But let's take that one step further. It's not just that the 50th anniversary is over. It's just that there's not a whole lot of action going on in the Disney World scene right now, period. Sure, Epcot's about to wrap up their big transformation with the Journey of Water walkthrough and the Communicore Hall and Plaza Festival Hub opening later this year. And Epcot's also going to have a new nighttime spectacular later on this year too. We've also got a few hotel room updates in the works and some new restaurants getting ready to hit the scene, like Summer House on the Lake in Disney Springs and the Cake Bake Shop at Disney's Boardwalk Inn. But when you see how much money Disney's putting into some of their international parks right now, it seems the Florida parks have taken a step back so that other parks can receive a little more TLC and fun new stuff. And that's fair. After all, Disney World has had 10 years of brand new openings with lands like Pandora and Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge, so it makes sense to let Disney World take a breather so that other parks around the world can have a turn in the spotlight. But with the new stuff Disney World has added recently, those who've already been to Disney World in the past few years might not find these new releases to be immediate must visits and are cool with waiting until later on to try them out when a trip out south makes more sense. Not to mention, many of these new releases don't yet have concrete opening dates. We know that Journey of Water is opening later on in the fall and that these restaurants are opening eventually in 2023. And when it comes to the Blue Sky projects that Disney teased during the 2022 D23 convention, which would potentially bring new lands to both Disney's Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom, like Zootopia, Moana, Coco, and Encanto, even a Disney Villains section was teased. We still have no idea what year these projects are set to happen or even if they're going to happen at all. So there's no point in planning a future trip around those possibilities when they may not even happen. And then there are all the other factors that are happening in 2024, like Genie Plus being made easier, Park Passes disappearing, Disney Dining Plan returning, and the new log flume ride Tiana's Bayou Adventure that guests might be more intrigued by, willing to hold off on their 2023 ventures until these new offerings become available. Whatever the case may be, the crowds that we're seeing in the parks currently are not what we were seeing this time last year, and Disney has gone as far as to state that they won't be returning in the droves that they had been. So what does this mean for you? Now that Disney World is actually seeing a break in those massive crowd levels, how can you benefit from all this if you're planning a trip this year? Well, mine for the benefits. There are so many different ways to save on your upcoming trip right now, and you don't need to be overlooking them. If you want to make sure you get the best savings possible on your park tickets and resort, hit up our friends at Small World Vacations. Small World Vacations is made up of a fabulous team of professional travel agents. They all do this full time. There's no part-time agents there. They can help you plan the cheapest possible Disney World trip for you and take into account all of these different discounts and what's going to make the most sense for your family and your eligibility at no extra cost. They are free to use. They are commission-based, they get commission from Disney, and so that is how it works. They are focused on making sure you have the best possible trip. Now, I'll link their info down in the description for you, just in case you're interested. Also, consider this your year to visit during the holidays. The fact that Disney World is already providing discounts for the holiday season could mean they're already seeing demand dwindle for the winter festivities. So if you've always wanted to see Disney when it's all lit up and decked out with the fancy Christmas trees and just oozing with holiday cheer, then this could be your year to try it out with fewer crowds and more discounts. And of course, don't be fooled. This might be the most important tip of them all, so I'm glad you stuck around for it. Despite everything we've talked about today, Disney is still a popular theme park and crowd levels continue to dip and peak in sometimes unpredictable ways. When we go to the parks every single day, we will see a very, very crowded Hollywood Studios and then go to Epcot and it's empty. Or we'll see a very, very crowded Fantasyland in Magic Kingdom, but if you go to Tomorrowland, it's empty. You can't really gauge how it's going to feel because a lot of those crowds do kind of like bottleneck and gather in certain areas. So are you still going to see some crowds? Absolutely. Are they going to be in different parks on different days? Most likely. So when you book a trip for the parks in the near future, don't think for 1 second that you need to procrastinate on your planning. Discounts sell out. Tron virtual queues still book up. Park pass capacity still fills up on the holidays and on the weekends. In short, Disney can still be busy, so don't let your guard down. Now, we want to help you make sure you're prepared for whatever Disney World throws your way, so make sure to keep turning back to the DFB channel. We'll continue to update you on what the crowds are looking like, what discounts we're starting to find, and how to rock your vacation no matter what. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.